You're listening to the Back Home Network, presented by Homefield Apparel.
And welcome, Hoosier fans, to an extremely disappointing episode of the Assembly Call. As today, your Indiana Hoosiers blew a 22-point lead and lose again at the Kohl Center to Wisconsin, 64 to 59, ending the game on an 11-0 run. I'm your host, Brian Tonsoni. I'm here with Chris Williams and Ryan Phillips, and we'll break it all down for you on this edition of the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. And let's start this show the way we start every show, and that is with our banner moment. And on nights like this, it gets to be extremely difficult to find a banner moment. But if there was one, the start, Indiana had some bad starts to games recently and fell behind, and this one was just the opposite. A great first half followed by an absolutely horrible second half of basketball. But the banner moment has to be the way they came out and executed and really dominated play in the first half, jumping out to leads throughout the segments, starting out to 19-9 after about 8 minutes, pushing it up to 42-20. And then maybe a sign to come. They 5-0 run to end the half was a telltale sign of the second half. But that's about what we can find is good is the first half performance, because the second half performance fell extremely short. So I need to do. Our banner moment today, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Homefield Apparel, now in their 5th season of sponsoring the Assembly Call, and their first at the presenting sponsor for the Back Home Network. As you think about what Christmas presents to get your loved ones, make sure that your online shopping includes a trip to homefieldapparel.com. For the IU fans in your life, Homefield has the largest collection of vintage IU apparel that you'll find anywhere, with beloved logos like 2 different versions of the Bison. And for fans of other college teams, Homefield probably has something for them too, considering their product line now extends to more than 120 different schools with unique vintage logos for all of them. And no matter what you buy, you know it will be comfortable, and the colors will last through many washings. Plus, you're supporting an Indiana-based company that came up through Kelly Business School. What could be better than that? So go to homefieldapparel.com, use our promo code HOME to get 15% off your entire first order. That's promo code HOME for 15% off. Once again, the website is homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. Okay, now it's time to move the ball, find the open man, and get some opening thoughts from the rest of our team. Ryan, fire away, bud. It's your rant.
That was embarrassing. Flat out embarrassing. It's, top to bottom, players, coaches, whoever. This is on all of you. Like, they were up, what was it, 20 was the max? 22? Something 22. Like that? 22 was the max. They were up 22 in the first half and lost because they played like absolute garbage in the second half. And the fact that they couldn't draw something up to get a single open look in the second, like, if you look at the second half, some of the buckets were Xavier Johnson had a layup. A couple of the buckets were putbacks by Race Thompson. Michael Durr had a little jumper, and then he went and got a layup that was contested but went in. I mean, where are the open looks? Like, what are you doing? They were lazy screens at the top. You're seeing dribble handoff, which does nothing but create a little bit of side-to-side motion. The pick and roll, they weren't even trying to attack that. Yeah, Wisconsin's defense got better. A couple guys didn't play well, but at some point, can you draw up one play to get an open look and maybe change some momentum? And they didn't. Can you as a point guard go to one play to figure it out and get an open look? No. The answer is no. They made 7 field goals in the second half. 7. 3 of 9 from the free throw line. They just can't execute. And this team has shown so far this year they're incapable of playing two good halves of basketball. They played phenomenally in the first half. Absolutely phenomenally. Scored 42 points in the first half and 17 in the second half on the road against Wisconsin. Did you think Wisconsin wasn't going to start hitting shots? Did you think Wisconsin wasn't going to play better in the second half and that you would have to up your game? They came out like they just expected Wisconsin to roll over and give them the win. It's completely inexcusable. Nothing that happened tonight is excusable. Guys didn't play that great. Okay, fine. Guys didn't, give the effort in the second half they did in the first. Fine. But as a coaching staff, and I'm not just putting us on Woodson, I'm putting it on the entire staff. You have to turn that around. Do something to get guys in the game. Parker Stewart didn't have an open look the entire second half. He hit a couple threes in the first half. Looked like he was going well. Did not have a single open look in the second half. Miller Kopp, same thing. Anthony Leal comes in, doesn't even get a shot off because they can't find a way to get him open on the perimeter. Guys were moving. Guys were doing stuff. They just weren't open. You have to be able to crack that code. You have to have something in your back pocket to get an easy basket when you really need it. And they don't, and they didn't. Trace Jackson-Davis really struggled at the rim. Xavier Johnson, 1 of 10 in the second half after a brilliant first half, 1 of 10 in the second half because honestly, I'm not even that mad at him because nobody else was doing anything. At least he was trying to go to the hoop. I hate it when he shoots a pull-up jumper. I hate it when he shoots a three-pointer from 5 feet behind the three-point line. But when he's driving, at least he's trying to do something when nobody else was. It's like they won the first half and they thought the game was over and they did not play it. They did not deserve to win at all. I can't stand Wisconsin, but credit Wisconsin for saying, we're down 22, we're going to win this game, and actually trying and pushing to the finish line. This was a horrible, horrible loss. I don't care that coming in you thought that's an automatic loss and you checked it off early in the season when you're looking at the schedule. They should have won this game, and their lack of effort and focus is what caused them to lose it. And that's on everybody, top to bottom. You can blame players all you want. That's on everybody, top to bottom, for not putting in enough effort to win this game. And I'm sorry, but if you're wearing that Indiana jersey and you don't put in enough effort to win, you deserve everything you get, and that's a loss. And so I'm sick of this. This is the worst Wisconsin loss we've ever had, and we've had some really bad ones. Being up 22 at the Kohl Center and losing, that's on the team. That's on everybody involved with this program. You cannot play like that and expect to do well. This is not a team. Like, how do you expect to beat Purdue, beat Wisconsin? You can't. So there it is. I mean, just an absolute disappointment from top to bottom. They do not deserve to win. I hope the plane ride home sucks because it should. That's a game they should have won, and they didn't.
Chris Williams joins us tonight. We were supposed to have Rick Bozich, but the Louisville AD situation is going crazy down there in Louisville, and he had to do some reporting. He apologizes for not being on the show, but we always enjoy having Chris Williams, and also known as IU Artifacts. Chris, your thoughts on the loss tonight, 64-59 at the Kohl Center?
I mean, Ryan's echoing so much of what I'm thinking, so I think
just be redundant. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, we came out to not lose in the second half. We've done that so many times. I think with this team, I don't, we could talk about all this stuff leading up the week about, okay, we haven't won since 98. And okay, who on the team, all the cute stuff about, oh, this guy wasn't even born. Okay, the fact is that you got to find a way to win the game when you're completely dominating offensively and you're taking them out of their sets. You're making them offensively frustrated. I think about the 2 times in the end of the first half when Leal came in and really gave Davidson, that inbounds defensive play. And then when he had to kind of throw something up at the top of the key, and I'm thinking, the way we lose. And then we come out, we expect them to, do exactly what they're supposed to do. We see them come out and come back into the game. They hit some shots, and then, they kept missing some shots when I thought they would hit them. And I was thinking to myself, okay, we're now going to get back in. But then we kept running the same thing where Xavier, gets a high ball from Trace and drives in to try to draw a foul, and it didn't work. And I agree that Trace was not aggressive defensively, and I agree with Coach. We were talking about before, he missed some shots around the rim where he should have converted, and so did Race, and so did Miller. But we had no three-pointers in the second half. I don't even think Parker attempted a shot in the second half, which how you don't get him open or how you don't get – why is Leal out on the floor in the first place if he's not shooting the ball? He's not shooting the ball. He's not out there. Now, granted, he played good. It's not great defense, but he's not out there for his defensive ability. He's out there to shoot the ball. The fact that I don't even remember. How many threes did we even attempt? Did we attempt a 3 in the second half? Maybe 1?
5.
I don't even know. In the
5.
second half? Okay, so we were 0 for 5 in the second half.
And 2 of them were at the end when
did-
Stewart was just forcing stuff.
So there. So yeah, when we kept running that same high ball screen and Trace was supposed to cut to the basket, they knew it was coming. They would double team him, and we didn't find anybody else to go by. And I know that Xavier was trying to go in to draw a foul, but it wasn't working. And yeah, I don't even know what else to say except there's no reason we should have lost this game tonight. We played completely flat the second half. We came out to not win the game, to lose the game, or we came out not to lose the game. And I don't know if it comes down to Trey sitting too long, Xavier sitting too long, that second unit that came in that kind of kept things around 10, 12 points. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of speechless by the effort in the second half. It was abysmal. So nothing really else to say there.
Yeah, the last few plays, I think, unfortunately, everyone was a little shell shocked that the game got close, and it just kind of fell apart in the last 2 minutes, which is inexcusable to play. But the post should have been wide open in the second half, and the post player should have dominated in the second half, and they simply didn't. Wisconsin came out and was double teaming hard to start the game. That's why there were 3-point shooters open, and Indiana did a good job of getting 3-point shooters open off of the double team and hitting shots. And then Wisconsin stayed on shooters in the second half, which should open up our strength, which is Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson. And they were getting pushed off the block and catching way out wide and having to face up, and then took driving shots that weren't very good, or they were missing shots at the rim. When your best players don't play well, you're not going to have a good half. And our best players were not very good today at all. That's being nice. But the ball was in the hands of your best players. Indiana was taking what Wisconsin was doing, but Wisconsin post outplayed Indiana's post, and you have an All-American, and that cannot happen. Their big guys crashed. How many offensive rebounds were given up and then kick out threes in the second half?
Especially
the post players,
as soon as Wisconsin got the momentum, it seemed like they were getting tons of second chances.
The post players tonight in the second half was the most disappointing thing for me. And that's even with Xavier Johnson having a really bad half. So you have your 3 best players had absolutely awful second halves. The thing is, you lose an opportunity not only to end the Kohl Center, but this team's not a tournament team. And this was there's only limited chances to get in quad 1 wins, and you had a 22-point lead to get a win. We need to all adjust our thoughts on this basketball team. There are a lot of issues of learning the game and learning how to put people away and play in 2 halves. Indiana hasn't played 2 halves for a long time. So the storyline really that to go back is how can someone play so well for a half and then so poorly for a second half? I think that's the main storyline. Ryan, your thoughts on why we're seeing this in many ball games? Either it's a slow start and then a strong finish, or tonight it was an absolutely beautiful first half, followed by the biggest dud you could ever imagine.
I don't know.
Causes for that.
They're coming out flat way too often after the break. I mean, they were completely flat after the break. I mean, they absolutely were. And then it only got worse as the game faded down the stretch. And here's what I'll say, because some people are reacting to things we're saying, and I said some stuff on Twitter, and people are reacting to that. No one is saying Mike Woodson can't win at Indiana. We're criticizing a game. We're analyzing a game. We're not talking about the overall strength of the program or the direction of the program. I have said endlessly, the program is headed in the right direction. Mike Woodson has done a very good job since he got the job. But when there's a bad game, you're going to criticize every aspect of the game. That includes his coaching. That doesn't mean that Indiana's terrible and they'll never win again or anything like that. People need to understand there are 2 different views on this. And one is that this game was horrible. And if you coach a game that goes sideways like this, you're going to take some heat. You need to be better. Yeah, it's only game 9 of his tenure or something, but I'm sorry, you're up 22 and you lose. I don't care how far into your tenure you are. That's embarrassing for you. So I know he feels it too. Mike Woodson's going to say the same thing. But as far as like the 2 halves thing, I have no idea, Coach. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because they knew what they were doing and how to beat Wisconsin. You know Wisconsin's going to adjust to you. You know Wisconsin's going to do some different things defensively, maybe cover the shooters a little more, leave the inside open. But they couldn't get the ball into the post to Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis consistently because Wisconsin's bigs were defending them well and going over the top to cut off passing lanes. And both Trace and Race and weren't creating space, for the pass to come in cleanly. Then you've got Xavier Johnson or Rob Finney bailing out on even letting them get to work in the post to get some room and moving the ball along and just doing dribble handoffs or just swinging the ball endlessly around the perimeter. Then you've got a ton of guys just standing around offensively. I mean, the second half, this offense is supposed to be more up-tempo, supposed to have a lot of movement. If guys are standing around and you're not getting openings because of that, take them out of the game. Bring somebody else in. You have this depth you've talked about and that you've used at times. Change it up. And I do feel like he stuck with the same guys who weren't doing anything a little bit too long, especially early in the half. Now, he stole some minutes for his starters late and brought them back on fresh, and that was a nice job to continue to keep the lead and bring those guys in. They went with them, I think, that second unit a little bit too long, maybe a minute or two too long, but there were no stoppages and he wasn't going to use his timeout, I guess. And then he finally did. But once those guys came back in, it was the exact same thing as the backups had. Michael Durr looked actually really good in the few minutes he played, and he was being aggressive, and he was carving out space for himself in the post. I'd have gone back to him more. He got called for a travel on a hook shot that absolutely was not a travel. I don't know what that was all about, but the guy scored 4 points. He only played 9 minutes and he looked like he was carving out room in the post. He was passing the ball well. He was able to step out on the perimeter and move the ball there. That's a guy who was actually doing something and you went away from him. Leo came in late. I don't know. Kopp didn't play down the stretch. I don't know if there's an injury there or something. I don't know if anybody has said, but Leo played a lot late. Wasn't really doing much. I thought he played pretty well defensively. He was overmatched, but I thought he was at least, trying. But he was basically standing in the corner waiting for a ball to come to him. I thought Kopp moved really well in the first half. We didn't see him a whole lot in the second half, down the stretch especially. I think he had 11 minutes in the second half. But he didn't even get a 3-point attempt in the second. The only attempt he had was he forced up one sort of a fadeaway in the lane where he was spinning around. I don't know what's going on, Coach. I really don't. But these guys, for some reason, can only expend 20 minutes worth of energy, 20 to 25 minutes worth of energy. And then they're not focused. They only had 4 turnovers in the second half, but some of the shots and offensive possessions they had were as good as turnovers. I mean, it was terrible. And I don't know. I don't know what the deal is here. But you've coached. You ever have teams come out flat? What's the explanation? It just happens, and it keeps happening to this team, and it's becoming a pattern. We said they needed to start the games better. They need to start games better. They started this game better. The real problem is they can't put 2 halves together. So that's now the focus, is maybe they'll start the next one better and flop in the second half again. I don't know, but this is a game you had to have. I mean, this was there for the taking. You had to have it. Could have been 2-0 in the Big Ten. You could have felt really good about yourself going into your next couple games. Nope, gone. Now you feel really bad and you're back to the drawing board.
I'm going to come to you, Chris, in a second, and I'll probably catch some grief for this, but teams are who teams are. We got a lot of guys back from the transfer portal who had big mental lapses and runs, and I like the guys and I root for them, and I think they're really good. But this is no different than what we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. We have a new coach, but the team's playing the same way. It's like you get a lead and you have a mental lapse or you get down. We're seeing it's a better because we're not necessarily having longer stretches. Although today was a second half of 17 points.
Didn't score in the last 3 minutes.
It's stuff that we've seen before in seasons before. So, it just might need time to work itself out and those things. Chris, I'll reiterate. I thought our post players, are high energy guys and high effort guys and high just offense and defense. And I thought they really had a poor second half, which then led. And I don't want to make excuses because I think Xavier was really, really poor tonight as well. But then people trying to make plays because the post play was just not there on both ends. Any other thoughts on why the 2 halves were so different?
I have a magic answer for it. It just seems that, these guys ride on major emotions and energy. And when things weren't kind of going their way the second half, they didn't really have an answer for it. And I know that, Xavier's a very emotional guy, but I think in some cases he was trying to do too much. He was trying to be the hero. A lot of people on social media were calling what he was doing hero ball, and it just wasn't working. I thought Race played well overall, especially down the stretch to try to get us back. But there was too many shots around the rim that were missed. I agree with what you said that their bigs, which never should have happened, were backing us down way too much. There were those two side plays where they were backing him down, and then Trace slid over to play defense, and his guy was wide open for a little jump hook right there on the side. That that shouldn't have happened. But I just didn't understand. I don't know. It's just I think there's so many moving parts to this team that we still don't know what's going to happen. I looked at some of Woodson's comment about we can play with anybody in America. Well, yeah, you can when things are going right, but I think we still don't have a consistent ability to overcome adversity. We don't have the ability to knock down shots. We don't have the ability still to figure out a way to do something that is not the norm of what we're seeing, which is a high screen flash to the, and there was a couple times it worked. There was a high ball screen. Xavier drove in, and there was an alley-oop to Trace. They tried it like 3 or 4 different times. Wisconsin kind of stopped it down toward the end, and then by the end of the game, it just seemed like Xavier was trying to go one-on-one and draw a foul, and he wasn't getting the foul. So I don't know. It's mind-boggling to me that we could just play this poor in the second half and not have some kind of an adjustment to where something changes or gets guys in there. They're going to do something different because I don't know. Kopp, I thought defensively was not great. He had a couple shots in the beginning of the game, but like I said earlier, if you're having Leo in the game, you're not having him in there for defensive purposes. You're keeping him in that corner for a reason. You got to throw it in and figure out a way to find him to do something offensively, because otherwise he's really not going to promote or, bring something in there defensively that's any different than what we already have. So
they didn't get him a single shot. Single shot.
So let's talk a little bit about the bench. I thought in the first half, the bench brought some energy, extended the lead. And I thought the bench, as Ryan said earlier, stole some minutes, important minutes in the second half, and only gave up a segment of 2 points. I thought Geronimo was ready to play when he came in, did some nice things, got a free throw rebound.
He hasn't been great lately, so that was good.
Yeah, and he struggled, and that's a little bit of that up and down. I have a little different take on Leo. I thought he played fantastic, and I think he doesn't need to score to do things. I think his passing is good, and I know that Davis hit him for a foul and an and one. That was a crazy shot, the 3-point play late in the first. But I thought he did some things, and what it shows me is that he's gaining trust with Woodson to do multiple things other than just come in and shoot the basketball. I was rather pleased with him. I thought Tamar struggled a little bit tonight, turning the ball over early, hit some big shots, hit a big shot on a 3. But Michael Durr, if you can get 8 to 10 minutes for TJD to rest or foul trouble and get that kind of production, I thought that was really, if you were looking for a bright spot. So, I thought Rob did some things that were, I just thought he was okay, which that's what he needs to be off the bench, as long as he's not really bad. I thought he had a nice run out, on the fast break, which Tamar was part of. So if there is an overall bright spot for me is refinding the bench. And that's going to happen when your bench is younger guys to some extent or new guys that up and down play. But I thought the bench did what they needed to do to win the game. This one was more on, again, I'm going to go back to the best 3 players I thought didn't have best 3-player games. Ryan, your thoughts on bench play?
Well, one thing I want to say is a lot of people are saying, why don't you bench Xavier Johnson for Rob Finney in the second half, blah, blah, blah. And Indiana's ceiling with Xavier Johnson is so much higher than it is with Rob Finney because Rob is too hesitant. We've seen it for years now. Love Rob. He's a great kid, but he's too hesitant. And this team wants to play fast. Perfect example, at the end of the first half, you got about 10 seconds left. You inbound the ball to Rob, and he jogs it up. You have 10 seconds left. Sprints up the floor. Maybe you get a scramble situation, you get something. He jogs it up and then kind of does a little move, gets to the corner and throws up a 3 that we know has no chance of going in. Xavier Johnson sprints that up the floor and looks for something. Now, maybe he misses the shot. Maybe he turns it over. I don't know. But the ceiling is so much higher because he gets tempo. He gets that. And Rob, a lot of times, will dribble, find a spot, look like he's going to throw it to the post, catch it, hold it. That might be a a 60-40 chance of working, so I'm going to go look over here and just reverse the ball. Sometimes you need somebody to force something, especially when you're playing very poorly, as Indiana was in the second half. And yes, Rob had a good finish on one layup. When he doesn't think, he plays pretty well. The problem is he thinks too much, and you can see it on the court. He holds the ball, says, I don't know if that guy's open. By the time he's done thinking, the guy isn't open. And you sometimes have to just play on instinct. And Xavier Johnson plays a lot on instinct. 1 for 10 from the field, not great for Xavier Johnson. 1 for 4 from the free throw line, not great. But I will say this, late in the game where there were no open shots and nobody was doing anything and everybody's standing around, he at least tried to go north and south and finish and get some shots at the rim. Now, some of the shots he took had zero chance of going in, but at least he was doing something. One of them, Race Thompson grabbed and laid back in, and it was almost a huge moment for Indiana. Too bad Wisconsin just steamrolled them down the stretch with an 11-0 run to end the game. I mean, I can't believe I just said that, but 11-0 run to end the game. But Johnson at least he was doing something to go north-south. Now he was out of control at times, and he needs to be smarter with with defensively, getting stupid fouls off the ball and things like that. But at least there's some upside there where I feel like Rob is who Rob is. He's exactly who he's been the last couple of years. He can't hit threes consistently. He's too hesitant. And you see the potential every once in a while when he, just doesn't think and goes. But it just feels like he's too much in a shell to be successful. So with people saying like, oh, bench this guy for this guy, as far as we know, Lander is not playing because somebody has suggested he's hurt. I don't know if that's we haven't had any official confirmation of that, but the rumor is that he's banged up right now. So that's why he didn't come in the game, but possibly why he didn't come in the game. But Xavier Johnson, there's a reason why he plays, and there's a reason why he's the starter. It's because there is more there with him. The problem is he needs to settle down and play more within himself. And, he's just not doing that right now.
I'll just encourage people, we're all upset about the loss and we're angry and we're pointing fingers, and rightfully so at places, but no coach in America would bench Xavier Johnson after the first half he had.
No, of course not.
He had 7 rebounds, 6 assists and points, and really ran that offense to get Indiana 42 points. And then the question becomes, everyone's been saying, oh, Woody's great at giving confidence. You start pulling people after one mistake or a couple bad minutes that have had a great half, and you lose the team. So as much as this loss is bad, disappointing, embarrassing, and what you want to talk about, Indiana led by 10 late, and you knew Wisconsin was going to make a run. Coach Gard didn't bench Davidson and Johnny Davis in the first half. When they got down, he stuck with them. You stick with your guys. And that doesn't mean you don't substitute if someone's really having an off moment there. But Ryan's exactly right. Xavier was asked to do some things. He's not a closer right now. Indiana doesn't have a closer. They have 2 of them, Davison and Johnny Davis. And Johnny Davis hits an incredible 3 to put them up 60-59. We don't have the answer right now. Our 3 best players were not able to hit shots in the last 5 or 6 minutes. But TJD got the ball, Race Thompson got the ball, and Xavier Johnson got the ball. I don't know you're going to draw up anything for Tamar Bates there late because it was a tough half. You got to go with the guys in that situation. Chris, anyone off the bench that you'd like to talk about? I thought the bench was probably the overall bright spot collectively.
I mean, I think Michael Durr showed that he has the ability to be a solid, down post player. He's got good hands, good footwork. I thought he got totally on that left-hand jump hook because I think Ryan made a good point that it was an anticipation call of the travel.
Absolutely.
That was ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, I think Jordan's going to do what he's going to do. He's going to come in. He's going to be athletic, go after rebounds. He's not a consistent scorer. I thought he played really good in the minutes that he had. I think that we're still trying to figure out lineups. I think that I get worried a little bit sometimes when Race and Trace are out of the game too long, even if you're in a situation where you're going to kind of be able to have a steady lead in the second half for about 10 to 12. The thing that, I think that could be relatable to this somewhat is that second foul that Xavier got late in the first half, you could just see Woodson's reaction to that because I think that changed a lot of the dynamics going into the second half. And this is something that he continuously struggles with because he is such an such a big emotional player that when he gets in that situation and you have to bring in Rob in, and I love Rob, I will continuously until he leaves, but he is not going to be the player that we want him to be. And I think we have to, err on his defensive abilities. On those, I thought that he was going to be able to be more shut down tonight against Brad Davison. He didn't have the matchups there. I couldn't put him on there the entire game because Hepburn was going to be handling the ball a lot too. But, I liked what Leo brought in. I wish he would score more. I know that he is a good passer. He has good vision on the floor. He's not in there for defense, but it is nice to see that we can bring somebody in where Trace doesn't have to play 38 minutes. But I really question, and this is just my opinion, I question if we left the starters out too long. And you notice that Woodson had to call a timeout just to get him back in because it was just, we were under 6.5 minutes to go. And, we didn't have Xavier, we didn't have Race, and we didn't have Trace in the game. I don't know. I can see some bright spots in it, but it's hard to, be super positive considering the outlook. So.
All right, coming up as we continue our breakdown of Indiana's loss to Wisconsin again at the Kohl Center, we'll point out some meaningful moments you might have missed, and we'll go inside the numbers to highlight the most important statistical notes from the game. You're listening to the Assembly Call. Stick with us.
Hi, this is AJ Moye. What's the only thing better than upsetting Duke in the Sweet 16? Celebrating it with friends afterwards. Join Jared, Andy, Ryan, and Coach for the Assembly Call after every IU basketball game. Go Hoosiers!
You're listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. I'm Coach Brian Tonsoni. Here with Chris Williams and Ryan Phillips, and we are breaking down Indiana's loss to Wisconsin 64-59 at the Kohl Center. It's time today for today's meaningful moments you might have missed.
Meaningful moments that you might have missed.
Well, I wrote several of these down in the first half, not expecting the second half to go as bad, but maybe we can turn this around. We've already talked about Geronimo being ready to play. I also had written down TJD breaking out of the double team. I thought that was a pretty good thing early in the first half, and then was non-existent. It wasn't finished in the second half. We all already have talked about Anthony Leo coming in, and for the most part, I think doing his job when he was called on. So, those were my first half moments. And I'll throw those out there because we're not really going to talk a whole lot about that. But I'm going to go back. You probably didn't miss this, but early on, the first play, there was a bad switch on Davis. Indiana was switching the back screen and the down screen action, and I think it was Xavier Johnson. Very first play, and Davis hits a shot. And right away, I thought Indiana's defense in the second half was okay. You hold a team to 64 points and really 60 until you had to foul. You're doing some good work. But that was a missed switch. Wisconsin started slipping some screens quite actively. Indiana figured that out. But I have it written down. There were several missed switches the way it was drawn up. Indiana was doing what we call an X-out switch on the backside on a roll replace. And Geronimo did it right. But I think, again, it was a guard. It was either Xavier Johnson or Parker Stewart that left a wide open shooter. So one of the things that I'll point that someone might have missed is the strategy there was to appropriately switch and cover up on some of their perimeters and shut down. And in a loss of 5 points, really a lot closer than that, you give guys momentum when you give them open looks, when you don't execute on defense. And you're never going to be perfect. But those couple of missed, I counted 4 missed switches. And again, those things give momentum. And so that's the meaningful moment, I think, that we might have any moments for you that stood out that were kind of behind the scenes that added to this loss?
I don't have one specifically. I would just say that the ball movement was just so much better in the first half. And I know that Wisconsin adjusted, but, I'll just say something quickly that, when shots fall, the game's a lot more fun. And I know that's a generic kind of cheesy statement, but, we had it. It was just fun to watch in the first half, the ball movement and the adjustment and that transitioning to what I thought was really good on-ball defense, frustrating them into some really bad shots, as bad as I've seen Wisconsin shoot it. And then, it just didn't, coach in the second half. But I would just, I don't have something specific to pick out because I just honestly have blanked on so much of, what I wrote down in the first half. But I would say that the ball movement and the ability to get the shots down in the first half was great. And I think it's just in general because it just didn't happen in the second half. So I don't know. It's frustrating to bring it back up. So
Ryan, any moments that stood out, probably poor more than good that we might have missed?
Every single vote offensive rebound, every single one, because they just added to the defensive issues for Indiana in the second half. I mean, Wisconsin, in the second half, Wisconsin only shot 40% from the field.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they dominated, but Indiana was so bad, just so bad. They were 11 to 13 from the free throw line, and they took advantage of their chances at the free throw line, which Indiana didn't do. But Indiana was just so bad in the second half that all Wisconsin had to do was play okay, and they won. And
yep.
That's what drives me nuts about this the most. It's not like Wisconsin went on some ungodly run of hitting threes or something like that. They were 4 of 13 from the 3-point line in the second half. And so it's all those little things, offensive rebounds, not cutting hard. Guys just not cutting hard to get open, to get the ball. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. There's not a specific moment. It was just a trend. You saw it coming from the beginning of the half too. You just saw it coming. And
there's
it was
a bunch of moments.
Not again. Yeah.
John in the chat, I think, said it perfectly. Indiana got outworked, and they got outworked in where our strength is in the post. Those offensive rebounds, I know one took a bad bounce or hung up there, and the jump was too early for race, but that's making excuses. Go get the rebound. But even on the offensive end, they were able to block our post shots, and we were more athletic and stronger and quicker. How their post play, I haven't looked at the stats and the numbers. I don't know if the numbers back that up, but just watching it, our posts were pretty much even, and that shouldn't have been the case. But I think in the second half, they were dominated in the second half with offensive rebounds, as you say, Ryan, and then not being able to score when you had one-on-one coverage. Make a move, get to the basket, go through somebody. That's just, I know I'm hitting it and it's over and over again. I apologize, but to me, Race and Trace did not have a good half and just really added to the struggles. So now it's time to go inside the numbers, and this segment is sponsored by the Power Rank, where our friend Ed uses data and analytics to make accurate football and college basketball predictions. He also writes an incredible March Madness guide every year, which we'll have a special offer for you once March rolls around. For now, if you want sports betting advice with the PhD edge, or if you just like understanding sports at a more analytical level, you should subscribe to Ed's free newsletter. Go to thepowerrank.com/AC to subscribe. That's thepowerrank.com/AC. Okay, let's dissect the numbers that tell the story of this game. I'm going to start with 22.6% shooting and 0 for 5 from 3. And incredibly, I'll look for the free throw numbers here. 3 of 9 from the free throw line. And I know
you're talking in the second half.
Just in the second half. And I know we talk about coach giving confidence, and that's why the guys couldn't shoot last. Archie took all the confidence, and everyone was Woodson because he gives them confidence. And I've always said players make shots. Players make shots. And maybe the design wasn't good enough. I could look into that, and they weren't getting good shots, and the shot clock ran down. But 17 points, 22% shooting, 3 of 9 from the free throw line. guys, you want to win, make shots. So the stat that stands out for me is the absolutely inability for Indiana to make shots in the second half. Chris, either comment on that or throw out some numbers that you think mattered in this game.
Yeah, you're echoing the fact that you're taking advantage of continuing the hot shooting you had in the first half and not finding the ability to find the open man and not being aggressive down low as Trey should have been. He should have been able to draw so many more fouls and go to the foul line so many more. But, the irony is that we, all those 3 or 4 different transitions where they kept getting the rebound. We still out-rebounded them altogether, especially on the offensive end. But, the lack of shooting, I think you said it all. It's the fact that we just couldn't create shots. We kept settling for bad shots, or we kept trying to go in and have Xavier try to draw a foul, which was not working. And, the refs were eating their whistles a lot of times, whether we like it or not. So, it just came down to the fact that we went absolutely cold in the second half when we were shooting 55% for the first half. And that's the story of the ball game, because the turnover numbers, we were below our number that coach wants us to have at 12. We had 9 for the game, and it just down to us being absolutely abysmal from the offensive end in the second half.
Ryan, any numbers stand out for you?
I said at the beginning, at the end of the first half, I said this: great half for Indiana, absolutely great. Need to avoid turnovers in the second half. They did, and continue to bring the D. They did not. And I said the Indiana shooting percentage won't hold, but if they just play smart, they've got this. They didn't play smart. And you're saying, Coach, the guys didn't make shots. I agree with that to some degree. Certainly one-on-one in the post, you got to make shots occasionally. You just have to. Sometimes you got to make a hook with a hand in your face. It's just when you're Trace Jackson Davis, you're an All-American. You got to be able to make that shot, at least 50 to 60% of the time. But they also weren't getting open looks in the second half, and so my number is. Certainly I echo the shooting numbers that you had, but here's another number. When you're not making shots, what do you have to do? Step it up defensively, step it up with the hustle plays, do things like that, maybe create some transition opportunities. 1 block and 1 steal in the entire second half. You've got Race Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis, and you've got, other guys like Geronimo and, other guys who can scramble. Xavier Johnson will reach in and grab a steal. 1 block, 1 steal. Getting out hustled, getting out efforted, and the worst part about it, they got out toughed all night long, especially in that second half. Their big men wanted it more than Indiana's big men. That's a problem. Again, if that's happening, put in the other guys. Put in Durr, put in Geronimo, give them a couple minutes, see what they do. But if you're getting pushed around by Wisconsin's big men, you're going to have a real tough problem when you play Purdue, when you play Michigan, when you play Michigan State. Like, Wisconsin's guys are just the typical Wisconsin guys they have. That's not Frank Kaminsky out there. That's not Ethan Happ. They're just guys who are okay. And they outworked you all night. Trace Jackson Davis in the second half was a -22. -22. When he was on the floor, Indiana got beat by 22 points. Plus minus is a very flawed stat. But that tells you when he was on the floor, when Parker Stewart was on the floor, they were both -22. They were a worse team when those guys were on the floor in the second half. So look, there's a lot of things you could talk about this game. There's a lot of numbers you could look at. There's a lot of everything. This was I don't want to swear. This was a really bad effort in the second half. I mean, just the effort was not there. The focus was not there. And it just shows. I mean, you look at the second half box score alone, and it's just like, that is an unmitigated disaster of a box score.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I was when I signed on, you guys asked if my mic was working because I was just sitting in stunned silence at what you were watching in a complete reversal. And if you guys know me now for a few years, it's hard to get me to be silent. The numbers back up the play in the second half, and it's sad because the first half would have been so much fun to talk about, but it's just whitewashed with the absolute poor play. One of the things I want to talk about a storyline is timeouts. I thought Woodson took a couple nice timeouts early, kind of cost him late because he used them, but I thought there were times the play got a little ragged offensively and bad choices were being made, and he called a timeout, got a good set. In the second half, there was out of a timeout, not the one that he took, but he did have a TJD lob to go up 49-35. Later, it was 56-48, put TJD back in, and TJD gets the ball in the post, gets fouled, but he only hits one of two free throws. I thought, in all honesty, trying to find something positive to talk about, I thought the execution coming out of timeouts and his use of timeouts was okay in the first half because he wanted to settle people down. But, boy, I think he wished he had a couple extra timeout late. So one of the disadvantages, everyone yells, take a timeout in the first half, get settled down or get kids fired up or rip them. I thought he did a really nice job in the first half. But the negative of that is you lose them when you use them. So it came back to haunt him a little bit. But I thought execution out of the timeouts was okay. And a game like this, you just wish you had 30 timeouts so you could explain to the guys exactly what to do, because I thought when they were on their own, their decision-making and their effort in the second half wasn't bad. Ryan, thoughts on the use of timeouts today by Coach Woodson?
I thought he waited too long to use the one in the second half where he took it about 6:20 something or something like that. I thought he waited about a minute too long there. And
Correct.
I thought he could have gotten his starters back in a little earlier. And it was, that was falling apart there. The second unit had lasted for a while and had done okay and kind of held its own, and it started to lose it. And I thought that he should have taken it about a minute earlier. Maybe he was hoping for something.
You're right, because it was 56-54. The group had come in and outscored 5-3. And then the last two possessions, they gave up two baskets, and it was 56-48, and he was forced to call a timeout.
And they were pretty easy baskets too. It felt like they were wilting there. And so I don't know. I mean, I think that he waited a little long. I did think the one he took in the first half when they had a lead was kind of quick and maybe not necessary there. Maybe you wait for a stoppage and make a sub there or something. But if that's what he wanted to do, I mean, that's what the coach's prerogative. But I did think the one in the second half he waited too long.
I get that. I think he was waiting for a stoppage at the 8-minute mark in your situation. In the first one, Indiana had a lead and then just went helter-skelter and had like two or three bad possessions. Yeah. And he knew that you don't want to give momentum because of your bad decisions. So that's where I thought it was good at that time. I don't know that I would have taken it, but I don't have a problem with it.
You can make the argument that was a smart thing to do to make sure they kept the momentum and all that. Don't argue with that one. I was surprised he took it. Doesn't make it a bad timeout. I did think the one in the second half he waited.
It was probably a minute too late. And then he took a second one in the first half to set a play, which a lot of coaches do too, but that's usually your use it or lose it timeout. But I did like the execution. I wrote down, I think they scored on almost every time they came out of even TV timeouts. I thought they executed, which again, I think Chris speaks to the fact that right now this is really a coach-led team instead of a player-led team, which is disappointing with some of the experience that is on this team. It's like when he diagrams something, they go out and do it, but left to their own and calling the play or not calling the play or the right play or the wrong play. I'm not excusing Coach Woodson by any means here. It seems like the decision-making and the execution when left to the players was absolutely bad in the second half. Any thoughts on timeouts or Coach Woodson's design stuff?
No, nothing really to add on. I agree that, that second unit was kind of losing control of it. And you could tell that he didn't want to get rid of his timeout to only have one left. And I wish he would have brought Trace in a minute or two earlier because, I know you don't want to have him play 34 minutes a game, but there's only so much that Michael Durr is going to be able to do in the game. There's only so much that Jordan Geronimo is going to be able to do in the game. And that second unit, gave the guys a rest, but it was just a little too late. But I think that, I don't know. Some of the play calling, if you're, we kind of echoed this, but things got away with them when they kind of just tried to do some more isolation. And Xavier, again, we've already talked about this enough, but it just kind of got away from where we were not running any kind of offense that seemed to be working on kind of ball movement. And it was more like, okay, Xavier's going to go in, try to draw a foul, and we're going to be out of position for the rebound. It's going to be a quick ball, and now we're in transition trying to play defense. So that's the thing that to me that was so infuriating. And whether that's something that you're talking about Woodson making the decision, whether that's something where he's putting the trust in Xavier to do that, and then it's not happening. I'm not sure. That's the thing that still is kind of, a question mark about how much is Woodson going to have with Xavier in the game, because I don't know if that's something that's, I don't know.
Here's the counter to that, Chris. I understand, but at 6:23 we put everyone back in, and TJD gets fouled and misses a free throw. He then has a bad defensive possession, and the post player that's not really super good gets a little baby hook in the lane because he was caught watching the ball. The next possession, he gets caught watching the ball. The next possession, Xavier misses 2 free throws. Then Race gets an offensive rebound to make it 59-53. Race misses, and Race fouls a guy trying to slap at a basketball late. And then TJD misses 1 of 2 free throws. Xavier turns it over. So, I understand where you say the bench was out there too long, but when the starters went, maybe you think that they just rested too long.
They weren't doing anything.
But when the starters came back in, they folded, hugely folded the last 6:23. So that's always interesting, because I too wanted those guys back in there, but boy, they didn't perform at all.
I know down
the stretch once they got back in.
And I know that Woodson is allowing Trace to slide over defensively to try to block the shot.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as if he was even going for the ball. He was stagnant in the lane, and there was that dump pass, and his guy was in position, and Trace was late getting to there 2 different times in a row. And that was, like you said, that was really, and toward the end of the game, that was really that was the difference, because
those 2 plays were huge. And I don't like that strategy. You can go block shots if the guy's in a scoring position, but that guy was well defended by Race.
He was like hunting a block. He was hunting a block.
He was hunting a block at a key situation, and just stood there.
And leaving his responsibilities to do
Yeah,
so.
you leave when the guy's got a clear path.
I don't think he scores there. Yep.
No, neither of them score. You wall up. That guy wasn't
make him
gonna
shoot
score
over. Always make him
he wasn't
shoot
going
over.
to shoot over Race Thompson. That's disappointing.
Wisconsin bigs are never known for their athleticism. We know that.
So. No. So coming up on Assembly Call, we'll hand out our game balls and Hoosier Hustle Award. Then we'll introduce a new segment before looking into Indiana's next opponent. That's all here next on Assembly Call. Stick with this.
What's up, y'all? It's Devontae Green giving you the green light to watch Assembly Call after every IU game. Just don't listen to their opinions about shot selection. Remember, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Go Hoosiers.
You're listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. Catch us live immediately following every IU basketball game, plus every Thursday night at our website, assemblycall.com. Also, make sure you sign up for our free IU Hoops email newsletter. Over 9,000 of your fellow IU fans have subscribed. Join for free today at join.assemblycall.com. That's join.assemblycall.com. I'm Coach Brian Tonsoni here with Ryan Phillips and Chris Williams. We're breaking down Indiana's loss to Wisconsin. It's now time for our game balls. Chris, who do you give a game ball to in this loss?
Do I have to?
I think shouldn't we petition Jared just to say, in a game like this there is no game ball. It's a loss, and it's an embarrassing and horrible loss. No game ball.
I don't know. I mean, I have to give a minor bright spot, although in a very much a supportive role, to Michael Durr. He's not going to be flashy. He's not going to score 10 points a game. He should have had 6 points instead of the 4. He came in and played solid defensively. He was switching really well, kind of going up to that high position, calling out screens, doing what he's supposed to be doing. So I give it to Michael Durr just because he had an assignment to do to come in, and he did it. And that played better than Trace Jackson Davis did overall in many parts of the game tonight. So I'm going to give it to Michael Durr.
Ryan.
I'm going the same direction. I think Michael Durr was the only one who was positive for the entire time he was in the game. He finished with 4 points and 1 rebound and and a turnover. But he was +6 when they were on the floor. They were better when he was on the floor. And he didn't wilt like other people. He walled up on Wisconsin's big men. He should have had 6 points, by the way. So final score should really be 64-61. But he walled up on those guys and defensively, and then on offensively, he was creating space for himself, which the other guys weren't doing. He had the confidence to shoot a little jumper. I think everybody was like, "What are you doing?" And it went right in. Because he can do that. And I think he's a guy who needs to play more, quite frankly. And he gave consistent effort every minute he was on the floor. There were only 9 of them, but, he gave consistent effort. Everybody else, there's such a negative mark against them for this game. I think that's the only direction you can really go. And I think the Hustle Award is going to be pretty obvious, too.
I think let's make it unanimous, anonymous. I wish I was anonymous right now in bed, but I'm going to go with Michael Durr for a lot of the reasons. I think until you mentioned the -22 in the second half for Parker Stewart, which I think is more of who he played than his own, his ability to knock down open shots is going to be good. I think that's the only other one that I think that you can give. He's never going to be a great defender or a driver of the basketball. He was asked to hit shots. He didn't get them in the second half. So I think his minus, this is where plus minus is flawed. I think it was more with the other guys on the floor. I like Parker Stewart a lot. He didn't take any crap in the jump ball earlier with Davison. So that's the only one, but let's give it to Michael Durr. And now it's time for the Hoosier Hustle Award, sponsored by our friends at Evansville Security Services, based in the hometown of IU legend Calbert Cheney and hopefully future legend Christian Lander. Evansville Security Services provides off-duty police officers to businesses and individuals throughout Indiana. Remember, prevention cannot be measured, so let Evansville Security Services help you prevent a bad outcome today. Go to EvansvilleSecurityServices.com to learn more. That's EvansvilleSecurityServices.com. So now it's time for our Hustle Award. Ryan, lead us off.
I'm going with Jordan Geronimo. I just thought his energy the entire time he was on the floor was positive. He missed 2 shots. One was a dunk that, Jordan, you got to put that one down. I know his legs got bumped out from under him, but you got to put that one down. 0 for 1 from 3 was his other miss, but he's 3 of 4 from the free throw line and looked a little better on his free throws this time. I mean, his form is great, but he doesn't trust himself, so he overshoots the ball a little bit, and that's why everything's long. But he had 5 rebounds, 2 offensive, 2 blocks in 10 minutes, and was +9, led the team in +9 along with Tamar Bates. So, look, Indiana was better when he was on the floor tonight, and I think that Race Thompson, Trace Jackson Davis were great on the floor in the first half and terrible in the second half. And so overall, you got to say Geronimo didn't have a lot of negative plays and wasn't hung with sort of what happened late to the other guys. So I got to go with Geronimo. I thought he put consistent effort in. I thought it was after the last 2 games where I didn't think he was very good at all. I think he really had to bounce back and look like an effective player tonight.
Chris, Hustle Award.
Yeah, I don't like being in these situations to kind of, because of the play was so bad, we have to look at these kind of situations. But I don't think it could be anybody else but Jordan. Athleticism, his rebounding ability. That one where he had the rebound and got the put back because he clearly was more athletic than the guy was blocking him out. Continues to show us what he can do when he's on the floor. His offensive game is still, to be determined. But yeah, I don't see anybody who could be position tonight more than him because of how bad our starters played.
I'm going to make it again 3 for 3 on Geronimo. I thought he was ready to play, and that first free throw rebound and that I thought was fantastic. If we're going to give any kind of consideration, otherwise, I thought Leo came in and hustled. Leo is Leo. I think he passes well. I think he's in the right spots defensively. He's in a great stance. But Jordan Geronimo did bounce back from a couple tough outings, and really I thought was got a lot out of his minutes. So Geronimo gets our Hustle Award. Now it's time for our lingering questions, and if you want to go ahead, chat mob, throw a question. It's in there. We'll pick one for the lingering question for the panel. But Ryan, I want to talk to you. We can't really talk about this because it was Indiana's horrible performance in the second half that lost this game. But I did think we got some Cole Center refereeing, and I thought there was a hook and hold on Davison on one of X's fouls earlier that was blatant, even after going to the film. That was missed. I think there was a loose ball on a drive that they said hit the stanchion, which never hit the stanchion, came down and hit a Wisconsin guy, which cost Indiana a turnover late. And there was one other the travel on Durr was one. So I think we kind of got some of that dang Cole Center officiating. But again, I don't want to even get close to saying that was the reason for this. But boy, there were some questionable calls in that second half.
Yeah, there certainly were, but I don't think this time, and I'm the first one to jump on the officials at the Kohl Center, and it seems like my rant the last 6 or 7 years, God, we've done this 11 years, but the last 6 or 7 years have all been about the officiating, just taking teams out of the game. And it's not just Indiana, it's other teams that play there too. For some reason, there's some magical quality to that building that does that. But this year, I can't even complain about the officiating because it had nothing to do with the outcome of the game. I think there were some bad calls, but in general, Indiana 19 personal fouls, Wisconsin 15. Wasn't that big a difference. Wisconsin shot 18 free throws. Indiana shot 13. Which isn't a huge difference, especially because Indiana fouled late to get guys to the line a couple times. And the other thing is Wisconsin was aggressive in the second half, and a lot of their big men were shooting free throws because they were throwing it inside and being aggressive where Indiana's weren't. So kind of evens out. I mean, the first half, they didn't really call much either way. They kind of allowed them to play, which I appreciated. Second half, it was a little bit tighter, but I mean, the guy who all he wants to do is rip the officials at the Kohl Center is sitting here telling you that did not change the outcome of the game. Indiana's lack of effort and focus changed the outcome of the game. So I can't really complain too much about the officiating tonight. I didn't think it was great, and I thought there were a number of significant missed calls, but I don't think that really had a big impact on the game. Indiana just not showing up at all in the second half is what caused this.
Yeah, I agree. I hesitated to bring that up, but boy, there a couple of those calls were I just think
they were terrible.
I'm not a big
Davison one
guy either. But
they should have overturned the Davison one. That was pretty obvious that the reason Xavier's arm went up was because it was hooked under his.
Yeah,
that absolutely has. Even if you don't call a hook and hold there, you have to you have to change the call. I don't know if they're allowed. I'm pretty sure they're allowed to do that. But look at that and be like, hey, no, this is the wrong call. And what they were looking at is to see if Xavier hit him in the face because Davison acted like he got hit in the face and Xavier's arm never went anywhere near his chin or his face. That was terrible. The Durr travel was an anticipation call, and what he anticipated happening never happened. And then there were a couple other bad ones, but it's, the ball hits a guy standing out of bounds and they call it out on Indiana. Whatever. But those, that even if Indiana gets all of those calls, this still happens. Because what are they going to do with an offensive possession when they have no offensive flow and nobody doing anything? You think they're miraculously going to turn this around and get a basket? I mean, I don't. I just don't think that the way they were going. Look, about halfway through that half, I told someone, I was like, they're going to blow this. Like, it's just the demeanor of the players. The last 3 minutes, there were breaks in the last 3 minutes where everybody's shoulders were slumped. It's like, it's basically a tie game. All you have to do is go down and score one basket and you're right back in this winning it. And they were actually ahead at the time I saw this, and the ball was out of bounds and everybody was just kind of slumped shoulders, staring off into the distance. Like, stop feeling bad for yourselves and play the game.
Done. Yeah.
Get it done. Yep. One basket changes the momentum of this game. Trace Jackson Davis goes down, backs a guy down and hits a hook shot. Game changes because then Wisconsin's like, damn it, now we got to come back again. We're down, instead of being down 3, we're down 5. That's 2 possessions. Just suck it up at some point. Stop feeling bad for yourself if things aren't going your way and play basketball. That's what you're there to do. Play basketball. And it just felt like too often in the second half, Indiana did not want to play basketball. They wanted to run the clock out and wait for it to be over. And that's how you get beat. And that's how, in Wisconsin, again, I cannot stand Wisconsin, but they worked their tails off in that second half to earn that win.
Sorry I brought up the officials. Chat mob, please listen to us. We are not meaning this game on the officials. There were a couple questionable calls. This is a post-game show. We're going to talk about a couple questionable calls. But if you're interpreting that we're blaming the officials, you need to make sure you go back and listen to our conversation. But I just thought there were a couple of calls that had some momentum shift in it, and we're going to address that. But we are not by any means blaming the officials. It was all about the play in the second half. So make sure we just clear that, unless you just want to listen to whatever you want to listen to. You are listening to the Assembly Call Postgame Show. Remember to check out our friends at Homefield Apparel. Use the promo code HOME at checkout to get 15% off your first order. Okay, guys, it's time for last call. Ryan, last call on a disappointing Cole Center loss.
It was embarrassing. This was absolutely embarrassing to watch. Indiana played so well in the first half. Absolutely played so well in the first half. And then just all that goodwill they built up by that great start, just wasted it all by not playing hard, not playing smart, not showing any effort, not showing any consistency, and just playing terrible in the second half. And they deserve to lose this game. You had a great first half, your best first half of the year, in my opinion. You deserve to lose that game if you don't put in the effort for 40 minutes. And so Mike Woodson and his staff have to figure this out. And it's on them to figure it out. As we've said repeatedly, the program is headed in the right direction. They've had some big recruiting wins. They've got things sort of on track. But when you lead by 22 on the road at Wisconsin, and a chance to end a 23 years of misery or whatever it is now, I've lost count, and you blow that, that's a bigger loss than you could possibly fathom. I mean, it just is. It's such a disaster. This team could have been 2-0 in the Big Ten. It felt really good about itself heading into the rest of the non-conference, and then heading into to start Big Ten play. Could have felt so much better about itself. Now they're limping home with their tail between their legs, and it's all on them. Nothing happened to them. They did this to themselves. And so when we're sitting there in February and looking back at the Big Ten standings, thinking there was a win sitting on a platter. And if they had just played smart and shown consistent effort, they had it. And they decided, they made a decision not to do that. And that's what's most disappointing. That's all they had to do, was cruise to the finish line by playing smart, playing solid defense, and showing effort. And they didn't do any of those things. So
Chris,
Indiana deserved to lose.
Chris, your thoughts. Last call.
I mean, this is the kind of game that, we've been looking for a win for, I know since 98, but in the last seasons was so much disappointment. This is the game that if you want to get the people off the back of the program, this is the game you win. This is the game that you win, that you can look back and as a quality win at the end of the season. And like Ryan said, this was served up for us. It could not have been if we had just executed the way we wanted to and played with more toughness. And there was very little outside of some situations where some of our guys got a little chipper with them. And that's good to see. But, Trey seemed pretty, apathetic tonight, some of the others as well. And so now we're looking at, you got 4 non-conference games coming up. You should win the next 4 realistically and win 5 in a row if you include at Penn State. And then you're served up against Ohio State on the 6th, where, you got to start rolling and you got to start getting the games that you're supposed to win, and Woodson doesn't want to lose at home. Well, that's a true test for it. But I think this would have been such a nice emotional win going into, games that we should take on Sunday, obviously. And then hopefully, what we're looking for up at against Notre Dame and the Crossroads, and kind of thankfully seeing that through to the end. But just a gut punch because of the fact that this would have been such a great emotional win for this team, where we haven't had those, especially on the road in the Big Ten the last couple of seasons. Now we have to kind of figure out a way to adjust it, because they have got to figure out a way not to lose games and have to figure out a way to just step on the throats of their opponents and finally, once and for all, put them out of their misery and win the game. Because I was expecting Wisconsin to come back, but I thought we would be able to close out and have a nice 10 to 12 point victory. And boy, was I wrong. So,
and for me, we just don't know who this team is. Is it the first half team here, the second half team at Syracuse, or is it the first or second halves you played bad? If you're looking for a positive, I saw some people wanting a positive to end the show. I can't really find too many. You're going to go back and watch the first half. That ultimately is the potential maybe of this program, but it's a 40-minute game. It's not a 20-minute game. So it's a loss, and there really are no positives. One thing I want to address, Chris brought up, is I'm getting a little tired of all the cattiness and the popping the collar and the talking trash that's being allowed in the program, and then we give up a lead of 22. If you're going to be talking and that kind of program, then you need to back it up with wins. This second half is embarrassing. It is disappointing. It is embarrassing. And we got a lot of people talking during the game and doing things. We need to focus on making the right decisions and making free throws. Yeah, and I've always been one. I know people laugh about my drops and everything about popping the collar. There seems to be an awful lot of that, and I just thought that was confidence and a little bit of swagger, and maybe the program needed it. But you know what? We need more than swagger. We need wins. And this was a blown chance to get a win. And it's a long season, and it can get fixed, and that's the positive. But I'm also concerned from a bracketology aspect because this is not – we put out our bracket Friday. Indiana nowhere near. Not the first four out, not the second four out. They're about 12th team out of the tournament right now based on the first net, and that's just way too early. But when you miss opportunities like this to get a quad one win up 22, that's a gut. It is a gut punch. So that's my final thought. I'm going to be here tomorrow for the show where we'll get some other opinions on the show, and we'll wake up tomorrow, have a cup of coffee, and life goes on. But what a disappointing day that really didn't have to be disappointing in basketball. So that'll do it. If you want to see us do the show live and be a part of the live chat, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/assemblycall.com. And don't forget to join. Don't forget to go to join.assemblycall.com to join our free email newsletter. Special thanks to Bob Thompson for the music you hear on the show. Special thanks to John Ringer of rigsdesign.com. regdesign.com for designing our logo. And thank you for listening. We'll be back to talk IU hoops again tomorrow night. Until then, keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
And that'll do it.
Thank God.
Gentlemen, I'm going to be honest, for any listeners in here, this team's going to struggle to make tournament, even if they rush ship and get some wins. The Big Ten does not have right now a lot of quad one opportunities like they have had in the past. Now, hopefully some teams will right the ship and get some big wins here in the non-conference, but and maybe that'll balance out. But I counted 10 remaining, including tonight, for IU possibly to get some, and you're going to need – and 7 of them were on the road. So now you got 6 quad ones on the road and 3. Some teams will move in and out of that. But, boy, that was a gut shot to me when the net came out. Indiana will be in the 60s probably tomorrow, low 60s in the net. And with only Notre Dame on the non-conference schedule, which is 137 net, which will do – it's a quad 3 game. This is looking I think I texted you, Ryan, and Jared. I threw up in my mouth when I saw the NCAA sheet because so much hope, and it's still there. We win 14, 15 games in the conference, we're going to the tournament.
If they win 12, they're probably going to the tournament just because
it's got to be some of the right ones, though.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? That's just
and let's be real, that might bounce back because other conferences could fall. I mean, so you don't know what's going to happen, but right now it does not look good. And
when Iona has a win over Alabama and Indiana doesn't have a quad 1 or quad 2 win, and Iona does, and it's early. It's early.
Some of the teams they played early could be better, and you never know.
There are patterns right now that don't look good for the Big Ten. Could get six, maybe 7 teams in the way the non-conference stuff, and the non-conference stuff matters.
It does.
Huge matters for the conference.
The question we'll have too is how many of these conferences eat each other once they start playing together. How many end up with, how many teams in one conference end up with 8-10 losses in conference and sort of eat each other up. We don't know, but yeah, it doesn't look good right now for the Big Ten.
The negative thing of this, Ryan and Chris, the negative thing of the net, once you establish you have good net, you could lose 8 or 10, but you lose to a top 25 or top 30. Once it's established, teams have gained RPI before it was RPI. Our conferences have gained the RPI. They've gained the net or gained the net too. Because once you have it established and you just play each other, you don't really fall out. And then every win or every loss is a good win or a good loss. That's why the non-conference is so important. And the Big Ten has struggled.
Yep.
But the Pac-12 is even worse, like twice as worse. And the ACC is only going to get through. I think there's going to be 6 teams possibly from the ACC and the Pac-12 in. So there are some opportunities there. But man, this just unbelievable twist tonight. And then we had to talk about it for so long. But keep your spirits up. We got a holiday season around. And here's the other thing, you guys can sympathize with me. Our Western team has similar issues. We struggle to make shots. We struggle to handle the basketball. When we play well, we put 20 points up in the fourth quarter and won a game. But we had 32 going into the fourth quarter or something like that. So I'm not only watching it for the podcast, I'm kind of watching it in real life too with our basketball team. But
I feel very sad for you, Coach. All right, let's stop talking about this game before I go insane.
All right, we'll shut her down.
Good
Get this sent off and
sorry, more
insane.
Cookies. It's All right,
unbelievable.
Bye, guys.
All right, we'll see you, everybody.
Next time. Later, guys.